Okay. If this one didn't work, then I give up. It worked. Okay. So I don't know why that is, but all right. Okay. It's fine. It's fine. Welcome to nobody. Welcome to the stream. And I'm going to now join my Discord chat, and that'll be great coolness. Okay, so hold on. Wait. Okay, I have to do this. Voice and video. That one. That one. Is this on? Yeah, it is. Okay, and my headset. Escape. And let's go to here. And then boop. And then da-doop, ba-doop. Pop out. Okay. And then scenes. And then where am I?
Okay. Welcome to Housekeep-a-thon. Today's wait. Yeah, wait, let me turn this one off. Today's topic is is this too loud? No, it's good, right? It's today's topic is how we can express ourselves publicly without having to pay deference to popular behaviors that are extremely ignorant and antisocial, which I don't like, and I don't think it's good for us to have to try to copy that, because number one, we don't get it. Number two, I don't think it's helping anybody. I think it's incredibly like destructive, but like counterproductive. I like producing good stuff. Happy Time Zone. I went to church this morning, but a different church held a community meal in the evening, so I went to that for the time. I had jacket potato, which, oh, that sounds nice. I did meet new people, but something did happen. Oh no, so something bad happened, I assume. Was it a more liberal church? That would be good. 'Cause it sounds like the other one was a little bit intense and a little backwards. And it's okay if things happen to us because we are not operating with a full set of information, and the information we're not getting changes rapidly because it has a game quality to it, and part of being accepted is being able to notice when the rules of the game have changed and play along with it, and that isn't going to be what we're doing, and that's okay because in my opinion it is a game. And it's okay to not be good at a game that people don't realize is a game. And it would be good if they did notice, oh, we're playing a game. Like, play the game on purpose, please. Not by default without insight into it. So that when you get somebody that can't play your game because they're missing that kind of information, you're not making a new game of make fun of the autistic, or, you know, make the autistic person a symbol of bad. I don't like that game. That's not a fun game at all. I can speak from experience. Not fun. Not fun, no sir. Don't love it. And I'd like to be able to say, I don't have the ability to play games. Please let me out. I would like to leave. That's a lot of personal. They're just trying to find. It's probably fine. Did you? I mean, if you want, you can always. I don't know if that slipped, but I don't. I think what you're doing, you can always disclose if it's safe. Saying like, I'm even. I think. Okay, let me back up. Probably the way that people are right now, and in the context that you're in, might make sense to say I'm neurodivergent and I have to navigate the world by asking direct questions sometimes. So if this seems weird, that's why. If you're able to do that, but they've noticed, they've noticed that you're not neurotypical, and that's okay. They should. We don't want people to think we're neurotypical. That's an unhelpful set of expectations, if ever there were some. Yeah, then the correct answer is a game, right? So think of it that way. The correct answer is a game. if there's some neurodevelopmental difference, the game isn't accessible, and we'll never know what the correct answer, because knowing what the correct answer is a game, and we don't have the in fact, a lot of people don't have the ability to see that to play the game in the first place. So it's keep it simple so that you don't have to ruminate. And we can actually use that to go into the topic. So the topic is how we can express ourselves publicly without having to pay deference to popular behaviors that are extremely ignorant and antisocial. And I think I'm being a little bit harsh with my wording, so we'll leave some room there. But I wanted to cover a lot of ground, so that's why I went as far as ignorant and antisocial. But there's a continuum of behaviors I'm describing. So let's say we want to express ourselves, right? Why do we want to express ourselves? Well, we want to contribute. We want to learn. We want to, enjoy things about socialization that may be mysterious even to ourselves. And what we want to do is be able to say to people pretty directly, hey, I want to express myself. And the problem is we have a lot of norms that teach people it's a cool thing to do to respond to that very honest person as less than, right? So if somebody's being antisocial and not very knowledgeable, they will put you into a position where they're suggesting the only way for you to be included is to also mirror or act as if you respect someone being kind of ignorant or very ignorant, just being not interested in knowledge and not interested in pro-social behavior, when I don't respect that. I don't like that. You could carry a card. I think that could be a solution. I think you could carry a card and be like, hey, so I'm neurodivergent. I tried to make this card, and there are templates for that. But you could look that up and see, and even like maybe try and ChatGPT to construct what your card will say. I think that's a really good idea. I think that would be really nice, and it would give you a lot of peace of mind too, that you can always pass out the card, get it laminated, have a couple copies of it just in case, and say like, in a new personal interaction, you'll notice that I'm different, and there's some questions I may not want to answer, so any way that you want to phrase it, and maybe ChatGPT can come up. I've used that a lot lately with like a copacetic, like coherent way of saying the points that you really care about, that this person knows about you, and then you can go forward from there, right? So, for example, like diverging personal information could feel very threatening to you, right? Like it could increase feelings of concern and paranoia and like worry about your safety, right? Paranoia I'm going to like put as like the clinical term, right? Like it could make you feel like you need to withdraw because of fear of being watched or fear of why people are watching you, right? Like that could be a serious psychological burden, and that could be explained to people in a way that's non-threatening through a card, without them having to know that like, oh, paranoia isn't the colloquial thing, it's actually like a technical term in psychology, and that everybody is on the spectrum of that, right? Yeah, and what they that might then decide about me later using that info I honestly gave as if it's an underground motive they're doing afflicting affect me. Yes, I understand what you're saying, Jamie. I understand. That's very insightful about your process. I just wanted to note that. And we do take some time to like check in with you on your process. I don't think you have a lot of places to do that. So I want to give you that feedback, that I think you have good self-insight there about your process, or I'm seeing you demonstrate good self-insight. So I think the card is a good idea. And, of course your brain may, from what I know about you, your brain may return that volley by saying, well, what are they going to think about the card? Turtles all the way down, right? Yeah, okay. No, if that's thank you for that awareness too. Thank you for that awareness. This is this is good. This is progress for you that I'm proud of you for doing. Okay, topic today. Let's do it. So how can we express ourselves publicly without having to pay deference to popular behaviors that are extremely I'm going to adjust ignorant slightly because I don't want people to see this as like a value judgment because that's not exactly what I want it to be. Okay, wait. I don't want that. That are incurious, that are deeply incurious, that are characteristically populations that are profoundly incurious. I don't know. Definitively. Also trying to not have it go off the screen too much. Here we go. I won. Definitively incurious and antisocial. Yeah. Valley judgment triggered. Still true. Yo, you're funny. I love it. This is good. Humor is also good. This is great. Yeah, when people look and feel, yeah, value judgment. Yeah. Hi, Hokie. Welcome in. I was just going over the topic for the day. So, and I was adjusting the language a little bit to make it less feeling like, it's some sort of a value judgment and hierarchically, significant statement about the worth of people. No. So I'm curious about how we can express ourselves. Usually this is going to be speaking, but it could be more abstract or artistic or whatever, or more formal, right? It doesn't have to be a conversation. It could be like a paper. Or book, I don't know, how we can express ourselves publicly without having to pay deference to popular behaviors that are definitively incurious and antisocial. So I take umbrage. I have issues with the incuriosity and the antisociality of society at present, of civilization in general, and that I don't want us have to be like, well, that's cool too. I don't think so. I don't think it's cool, actually. I think it's quite alarming. And I'd like to stand in contrast to it. But there's a catch-22 here because the incurious, antisocial person is pretty liberated to attack me and to be, start directing it at me. It's like, oh, you don't like this? I'm going to do it at you specifically and do it in a way that makes you never want to go in public again and just like all that. And I'm trying to figure out, maybe part of it is just pointing out that exists, like as a process statement. I've been thinking about process statements. Like process statements are dope. Like basically it's saying, oh, we all have psychological processes and we have limited self-awareness and limited external awareness. It's hard to understand human minds, but that we can make some statements about it, like some empirically evident statements about our process. And I like that. I think that gets us on an even footing, right? That we all know we have processes. Mine is different for reasons related to my neurodevelopmental difference and disability. But then I can say like, hey, if I know somebody isn't interested in that sort of self-reflection or that reflection, but in a larger context, then probably they're going to be doing this exact behavior that I'm taking umbrage with, which is the lack of curiosity, the lack of prosociality. So how do we express ourselves when our society is like, but that's cool though? I'm like, And I liked Mr. Rogers because he talks about like kindness, goodness, these qualities that I think he's describing, this curiosity. I know he is. Curiosity and prosociality. How can we make that attractive? And that it is attractive. And that people, I would like to operate on those terms. Like people be able to see that that's what I'm here for. And I'm not going to do a nice, deep, regal bow for the king of being a piece of shit. I don't want to do that. it I don't think that's superior to me, or this um this what's it's not a value of being, it's like this desire to have the qualities of being curious and pro-social. I'm very into that. And I don't want to say, but really being incurious and antisocial is better. No, it's not. It's like, it's objectively not. And I don't really want to argue with people that think it is. Like, I would rather speak to curious, pro-social people myself, right? So I don't want to talk to the king in his court, but I want to talk. So where does that fall into our current civilization? That is the question. I think some of it is just talking. So some of it is just like, this stream is very small for a variety of reasons right now. Maybe it'll be bigger one day. Maybe it never will, and I will still do it. I'm fine with that, I think. Yeah, I think that's fine. But I am practicing being in public, speaking in ways that I think are important. And I'm glad that I have this opportunity, even though it's imperfect. I'm imperfect. I will not be on an ascension towards perfection as I do this, but there's a skill that I value, and that's being able to speak meaningfully and to be heard with the meaning that I intended, and even discover deeper layers of meaning because of the curiosity and the pro-sociality. I want to cooperatively be curious with people, and I think that that's possible to accomplish even in an environment where we have this other problem of it being populated by incurious, antisocial patterns of behavior that I don't want to participate in. And I will always be existing kind of in relationship to it, like I'm acknowledging it now, I noticed. But what I don't want is for that to be what I pay deference to. That's not the center of my universe. That's not the epitome of anything for me. I think it's actually like, it's a benchmark of how low it can go, and that's nice, but we're not doing that here. We're going to a higher standard, which I believe is demanded by the subject, right? The subject matter demands the high standard. And this is why I like the Inner Ring, because it talks about doing things you like with people you like. And the things you like dictates a standards, right? And you have to be curious about that. And the people you like dictates a standard. And you have to be curious about that too. Like, basically, to have a successful space, the pro-sociality has to be in this kind of successful space, as described in that essay, The Inner Ring, like a true inside and not an inner ring. Inner rings are not what we want. So how to have that is like, you have to consider what is a true, authentic pro-sociality, and you hold yourself to that standard, updating it as you know more and know better. And then what is the true standards required by the subject that you're talking about. And I like defining the subject. I do not like people doing the whole let's switch topics all the time, switch the subjects, because first of all, it's impossible, nay improbable that a person can know about that many things or even be interested. And also, the game is apparent to me that it's not about deeply understanding the standards that any given topic requires for you to engage with it meaningfully. It's about looking like you're better than other people, and I don't want to do it. Like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Like, that's a lot. I do think that people are better when they are pro-social and curious. But that's according to my own standards, and I'm not going to change them. And I don't think my standards are inferior to the popular antisocial incurious standard. I don't think that's better than mine, because I recursively have just made a statement about that. Like, of course I don't. So I'm not going to subjugate my standard to this standard that lacks the standards that I have. That doesn't even make sense, right? Like, theirs is a decreased standard of the things, of these specific qualities, these two criteria. So how could I possibly pay deference to that? Why would I possibly say like, no, that's secretly better? No, it's not. It's not. Or that's, you know, some weird cosmic statement like I'm in the gray order of the Jedi or something. I need to talk about how the dark side is really special after all. I don't want to do this. Like that, I think the whole framing is ridiculous. And I'm not going to center people doing the bad standard. That doesn't make sense. If you did that for other art forms or skills, they would never advance. You can't center the person that's terrible at ballet technique and then ballet technique progresses. You just kick them out. They just can't be there. They don't meet the standard to participate in the curiosity pro-social activity. The curiosity-based, pro-social-based activity. Hopefully that makes sense. And now I'm going to do a quick look around to decide what I am doing with the Housekeep-a-thons. Highly recommend you do this as well. So new things, old things, all things, do things is the new model of motivation that I think anyone could use, but I would highly encourage people with neurodivergent status, in particular some status of autism, to try. So new thing is, where am I right now? New information that you take in with your eyeballs. If you don't have eyeballs, this may be a different method. Ears is probably it, or maybe tactile. Who knows? But anything that you could also incorporate ears and tactile if you would like. And then you go, okay, so that's what's new, cool, and new in that like every moment of time that's going forward as time seems to have an arrow. So if you're the arrow of time where you currently are at, what's going on? Okay, there's your new things. Old things. You allow your brain to make free associations to past memories. You're like, what does that signify? What does that mean? Then we do an all things. That's complete synthesis. So now this is all connected. If you had a resin-filled straw with events embedded in the resin, we're going to flip the straw and look down it. And we look at the total pattern. And then you just let your brain, after doing that, that's all the processing you have to do. You don't have to decide to do things. Your brain will decide it for you. Woo! We love it. So I'm refining this method or this mechanism, or I guess it's a method, technique. But I recommend you try it. And the nice thing about it is just the do things is the do things is not a step. I have an issue with steps because it's suggesting doing is arriving instead of doing is building. But okay, so the do things is not prescriptive, it's descriptive. You're just going to do things. If you do NOA, you're going to just D. So that's node. Okay, so please try that. And I've done that. I think one thing I've noticed that would be interesting is stuff on floor. New things. There's definitely some new stuff on the floor. Old things. In the past, the stuff on the floor has been uncool and not a good thing. So I'm going to treat this as a get stuff off floor thing and think about, do I have a new solution that could emerge? Is there if I look at the all things, is there a way of keeping things off the floor that I might want to start experimenting with? We'll just keep that available to my mind to notice and observe. And that is what I came up with by noting my environment and my brain for some reason when it did all things. And again, you don't have to have perfect insight into this and be somewhat mysterious. For some reason, my brain is really interested in fixing the floor thing. All right, good. We'll do that. Sounds good. All I have to do at that point is like green light the thing that my little engine is being revved up to do, right? Like I'm just the flag at the start of the Indy 500, and my little car is vroom, 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 boom, and let's go. So that's what you can think of as node as, right? You're setting up, and then the engine's already revving by the time you get to the all things. That's at the end of that, you revved, and then you're just like, yep, flag. You're just maybe flag, if anything. But you'll feel it. You'll feel it, is what I'm suggesting. Like you'll feel it in a sense, like emotional way, sort of way, almost as an impulse, because that's what motivation is. It's an impulse. So I'm trying to get you to be able to have an impulse successfully instead of listening to steps and SMART goals. That's not going to work. If you have what I think I have, that ain't gonna suffice as a way of getting you to move. You're going to be stuck. And we don't like stuck. Stuck sucks. That could be a t-shirt. Stuck sucks. That's hilarious. See, this is why it would be nice to be a little bit more popular. But I'm currently not, and maybe will always not. I don't know. I think I have the capacity to be popular, but I don't know how that really would play out, and whatever. If I'm not, I'm trying to make peace with that. Oh, I had a birthday on Friday, so now I think that's part of what I'm doing is making peace with, like, maybe I don't become popular, maybe I do, maybe I don't, maybe I don't know. But I kind of wish I did, I think, because I think my ideas are really good. And it's weird because it's like, they're my ideas, yeah, but I'm also kind of like a conduit. Hopefully I think there's got to be some amount of like convergent evolution on these sorts of ideas. But in the meanwhiles, I would like to advance that conversation and be part of that. I think why is that? Why is that? Because I felt left out. I don't like feeling this left out of civilization. It feels bad. I don't know why. I just know it does. I feel like I have a reason to be not just off to the side, I guess. But I don't know. I don't really have a really deep insight into that, and I don't want to question my motives too much and be like, well, is it like unhealthy to want to be included? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe a little bit. Who knows? I don't think I would do it let me put it this way. I wouldn't want to be included at any cost, right? I'm not going to compromise to be included. That's no good. But I also can't navigate in a way that gets me included as something that I've noticed. Not really. I mean, a little bit, but not so good. So I may just get excluded because of my deficits in being able to become included. And I guess that feels a little bad. Feels like a failure on my part somehow. But then it's also a disability. I don't know. Feels kind of tragic. I think it feels tragic. And that's So then but then I'm like, but I don't want to wallow in that. Anyways, maybe this is relatable. But just thought I would share my process since I noticed that I was having one. Process awareness. Yeah, we like it. Process awareness is good. Let's do it. Let's do process awareness. So that's my opening statements for today. What else? What else? What else? I feel like there's something else I'd like to hit on. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the birthday wishes. I like thinking about what my day number is and that every day matters. Oh, and to put activities besides timestamps to sort of place value against the time. So housework should be, let's say, 1 hour somewhere, or even 30 minutes. Not sure where. End of day probably, but this might be doing as arrived. Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. You know what's interesting about that? Huh.
Also, doing as arriving is not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. That's another thing. Yes. What we're concerned of doing as arriving, that's really important. Doing as arriving is not bad. Doing as arriving should not atrophy doing as building. And we get our concerns because of the level of atrophy. And it's in a similar way that, like, sight is not bad, right? Obviously. But people use sight to decide things about skin color. They employ sight in service of racial hierarchies. So we have a beef with employing that ability in service of hierarchies of let's see, what's the word? Supremacy, like supremacist ideologies. It's not true supremacy. It's an ideology, right? Yes, Housekeep-a-thon. Yes, I super relate to this. Myself, I feel like a failure because I'm not really allowed to contribute to my cause. Each time I try to, I'm chastised in some way or another. Right. And thank you for the birthday wishes. Can you check my bio on my Twitch channel? Yeah, I would love to. Let me check that. Let me just pop over a window for that. So yeah, so Housekeep-a-thon, yes, you're fighting against the power system which is trying to stop you. We're unpopular because of the level of doing as arriving that we say is important. And sometimes it's just a matter of we're going to be like, no, you have to do doing is arriving right now, because like you can't keep doing this much doing is building. And then it sounds like we're contesting the game of doing as arriving. Did I say that backwards? I hope not. You have to do, I think I said that right. We have to do doing is building, not doing is arriving. But somebody's like really deep in the doing is arriving game, and then they're like, well, I have status because I'm good at doing is arriving. And then they try to make an ass of us, which is very easy to do if you're going to play doing is arriving games. Super easy to do. We can't keep up with that. We can't even see it. So that's what I think happens amongst. I think this is complex. I think there's a lot of things that are happening, but that's one of the issues, and different personalities can reinforce this. I'm talking more about somebody that's antisocial, and we realize that we have like a crisis of like antisocial leadership. So I'm talking more about that, which is my biggest concern, and also people adopting that behavior. And if you got them away from the antisocial leader, they would actually kind of like revert to some other more pro-social, curious state. But right now we're having an epidemic of the antisociality. So yeah, so we're also dealing with that, which is really stressful, and we don't have really great advice for it for the neurotypical people either. We have some insight that they wouldn't prioritize in the same way that, like, my example that I like with congenitally blind people and blind people in general, but certainly I heard this from a congenitally blind individual. They're able to hear when people are smiling, because it changes vowels and it changes how the resonance and the sound waves are moving through space, and they can hear it, which is awesome. That's like, wow, I did not know that. But I've been smiling and speaking my whole life and didn't notice that, because I have a different sense of what information what sense information is categorized as and how it works in my brain. So my sense of that is really different, but the blind person can do that as a byproduct of living. I think a sighted person could learn to do that, not as well, I would venture, as the person who does not have sight and has been congenitally at birth, starting out developmentally in that mode. But we could, and there's probably an argument that it would be extremely important. And what I would also offer is that the most important things to any project, whether that be human thriving on the whole or something more specific, thriving, what's most important to that may not be what the neurotypical default pays attention to. And sometimes what we pay attention to is the more important thing, but we're not able to contribute to that. And that's I think where we're ending up, which is, yeah, frustrating and shitty. Yeah, both my parents are very antisocial and demanding, and so are the people who are supposed to be assisting me with my disability. Yeah, so and, also I'm gonna look at your thing really quick, Jamie. I'm on that. Okay, let me look at your bio. Oh, that's a nice background. Okay. Ooh, I like that. I like the end. I don't agree with hierarchy. I think that's good. You know what's interesting that I don't agree with hierarchy? It's a little bit necessary to unpack it, but honestly, I think that's a good, like, barrier to entry. If somebody isn't interested or curious about that, they're not worth your damn time. Like if somebody can't work with that sentence and be curious of how you would unpack it, then I think you've already filtered for them, right? So if somebody comes in hot with an interpretation that's weird, that would be fascinating. And then I think the only thing I might consider phrasing a little different, and then I wonder if like running that through ChatGPT would be good. I don't have an issue with might be a little bit too negative coded, a little bit. The last sentence I like because it's actually neutral. It's phenomenally neutral, and it's like it invites questions, which is cool. And because a person who is of the temperament, we'll say, or the behavioral habits that would be good for you to interact with and healthy for you to interact with, instead of somebody toxic in such a, we'll use toxic as a shorthand. You get, it's more complex than that, blah, blah, blah. But anyways, they would engage with that really successfully. They would have a very good response to that, and I like it for that. I think that will serve you very well, so I would definitely keep that. The one I might adjust is the I don't have an issue with, because there's a slight negative shading to that phrasing where somebody could interpret that as, I don't want to say passive aggressive, because I don't think that's accurate, but I think the standard listener, viewer, reader would be primed to do a negative reading of that, and might call it call their reading of it, oh, I think that could be passive aggressive. I think that be, it's not. I know it's not. You know it's not. But I think giving yourself more buffer there and making that more neutral if it's possible, that's the only thing I would say that might be worth tweaking.
That's pretty strong. So that's 11 or something broken.
Yeah, I think it's because I don't have an issue with is a reply to an accusation, and I'm trying to diffuse it. Oh, so you're having a conversation. That totally makes it. Yes. Let me think about this. Wait. Well, no, I mean it's interesting because you're responding to an accusation. That makes sense why you said it that way. I do something similar. I actually can relate to that. Okay, let me think about it for a second. If I can't do it, then I might. If you like ChatGPT, I would run that one through ChatGPT too and see if there's one that stands out. In fact, I'm going to ask it. Do you mind if I do that? I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to articulate a very, very specific frame of reference that people are not using good language around, because I think they actually have to like fix some Platonic idealism that they've integrated into their thinking. But that's a oof. Okay. Okay. My friend bio and reads like this. I think specific phrasing issue with could expressed in positive, true, clearly. Yes.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, one second. About where I put something. Okay. Okay, I'm just. Any suggestions? Okay, so the suggestions I'm getting are okay. I value and respect. I think that would be good. Let's see. Let me think about this. I value and respect anyone. I value and respect people. I would do that. I would start with a stronger statement. I value and respect people, period, or comma, regardless of race, ethnicity, age, sex, gender, right? That might be it. Or maybe not regardless. I value and respect people. Oh, fuck. There's a better way to do that. I like that I value and respect. I value and respect people. I value and respect people. I value and respect people. I respect. Oh, or you could even say I value and respect the humanity of every race, ethnicity, age, sex, gender, LGBT, right? Like something like that. I value and respect the humanity of people of all races, ethnicities, ages, sexes, genders, LGBT, plus identity or status. I'd rather go with status personally. I think that's what I would do. You could still noodle with it, but that's where I got to. Right? Because it's like those are categories that people try to deny human rights by asserting, oh, well, you're this kind of person, therefore your humanity is compromised, or my respect, or the respect of your humanity ought to be compromised for blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah. So that's I think that's what I would say. It was a little bit muddly, but hopefully that's of the use. And that is actually related to the topic, because that's what I'm trying to also indicate, is that to be pro-social and curious about people is also part of the whole thing. Is like I am curious about people. There gets to be a point where I need them to also be curious about me. So there's like a mutuality about that that's really important. But you're starting by saying, these are my cards and they're on the table, and you're welcoming people that, yeah, yep, I like it. Yeah, I like that. I like that. You know what I like it for? I like how you did it. Yeah, I think that works. Because you're valuing and respecting them as people and their position, their observations, their perspective. It has a similar condition that I see in the I don't agree with hierarchy, where it will invite people who are curious in the way that you want them to be. I think it's achieving a similar aim. I think it does. That's good. In my opinion, that's really good. And if somebody comes away with that being funky and trying to have a bad faith interpretation or something, or like an uncharitable read of it, they're really not your persons. Like, those are not your folks, right? So I think that works because it's working as a litmus. Very cool. Good job. Yeah, it's great. I think that's going to be a successful experiment. Yeah, party hat. Okay. All right. So back to my floor thing. Okay. So let's talk about slowing down. So one of the things I've observed in Mr. Rogers and Fred Rogers, he allows for pauses. I don't think everyone will have the ability to use the pause duration that he is, but I still think it's very important to set the pace slower. I can talk very fast, but that has been adopted as a signifier of somebody being the dominant person in a conversation, and I don't want to interact with folks that are like that, and what I would rather do is them out themselves. Ooh, I do need to drink. You can hear it in my voice, huh? Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, so I'd rather what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, there's a word. It's not like pitching down or up. It's like I'd rather adjust the tempo down for a variety of reasons. I think it probably will make my conversational partner more successful as well. But I would down tick it down, maybe is just a couple ticks down in speed, and allow for pauses. I have a harder time slowing down my speaking speed. It's fast because it reflects probably my processing speed and my language acuity being abnormally developed, or like is well developed. I don't know. So it's a little hard, but if I put in the effort, it should reward the conversation with a couple things that me speaking at that faster speed precludes. I won't be able to get those benefits, and I think some of that is contrasting the incurious antisocial trend. I'm going to call it a trend. I think it's like, like all the guys running around doing their quote unquote political streaming or whatever they're doing, YouTubes and whatever, drama streamers, etc., whatever they want to call themselves. I think they are basically incurious antisocial core. You know how there's like kid core, cottage core. They're just a fashion. They're a manneristic fashion instead of a textile fashion. But they're all the same. A trend, a fad. So I don't want to pay deference to that fad. First of all, I don't think it's very cool. But second of all, I don't want to speak in fads. I want to speak in something quite a bit more substantive than that. Fads can be fun, but fads are not something that you're going to base important societal standards on. Thank you. Don't do that. In fact, that has if you look into the history of fashion, that has some real negative outcomes. Please see Belladonna. Belladonna and eyeballs will give you a horror story. So yeah, they're Belladonna and eyeballs, and I'm not into it. All right. Hey, I found my hairpins. I didn't know where those were, and I don't know why they're here. It's always fun. I couldn't find any of my bobby pins. They're in my backpack. Okay. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. So now how does anybody, autistic or not, how do you walk around in an environment where that's the game? It's like a dress to impress fashion runway of antisocial core. What do you do? And it's a problem in so much as people don't see it. If everybody saw it socially, civilizationally as that, we would have less of an issue. It would be really silly, and we wouldn't have to take it seriously. And we wouldn't have to take it seriously because people wouldn't take it seriously. We have to take it seriously because people take it seriously. So how do we get ahead of that and start to just say, well, no, that's just really not what we should be taking serious, because it isn't what they say it is. It's a pageant. This is the Miss America of being a piece of shit. See what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Yeah, I visited a country house this week, so I did encounter history of social hierarchy, material capitalism, inheritance. Yep, yep. And that's the stuff that I think our civilization should not be built around. You can have games around it, but civilization itself should not be that game. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Human potential for thriving and contribution and understanding and meaning making and being, conscientious observers of the universe is so much higher than being left with that. Like, no, please no, please don't make that be what our species is about. Please, and it's not what our species is about. So I don't think that game should have this deference. I just don't. I'm not going to defer to that game. That you can try to make me with money and weapons bought by money, which is how money works. But no, I'm not. Fundamentally at my core, I'm not going to do that. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's quite big picture, right? Like that's quite zoomed out. And I don't need to have like that great of an impact on the whole thing to do something of value. Something that establishes good meaning making capacities in myself and other people. I don't need that to be that big of a big of a win. I don't need that big of a win. But what can I do? How do I have a small win, a quote unquote win, as I shit on games? No, how can I successfully speak without having to do it in this constant? I don't want to speak in the court of the king, yeah, and I don't want to be dragged into the court of the king for speaking. That's my concern at this point. Is that's what's happening. So basically I'm speaking and then somebody shows up and I'm like, I wonder what the king would think of you. You must come before his highness. And I'm like, no, whoa, no, I don't, nope, I know what's going to happen there. No, thank you. And maybe it's just a matter of talking this through, acknowledging that, saying that to the people that want to drag me before the court of the king. I don't want to. I'm like, no, that's not why I'm talking. That's not what I need. I'm not going to do it. I'm not doing that. This is not what I'm here for. I acknowledge that all of that is happening, and I acknowledge that what I'm saying would be destructive to that, but it's demolition of bullshit anyway, and I'm not gonna then participate in the most bullshit shitty person pageant. I don't want to do that. That's not. I'm not gonna be coerced into that. But that doesn't mean I don't get to speak at all. So that's where I'm at with it. Is like I'm having a hard time squaring that circle and figuring out what to do. I wish I could come up with something a little bit more readily to address that successfully. But that's where I'm at. That's what I've been thinking about. And hence I decided this would be a good topic. Oh, I have a second topic too. Maybe let me introduce that because we didn't do it last time. I wonder if it relates at all. Maybe it doesn't. How to onboard or experiment with advice partially even though it doesn't apply overall. Do you want to pop over to that topic? Because that's a tricky one for autistic people. I feel satisfied with where I got with this. Like even just talking about it out loud is kind of maybe all I need. I don't know. Like maybe just detailing what I'm seeing gives me license to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm like, well, no, that is what that is. Screw it. Like, even if someone's going to interrupt me and say, no, it's really this other thing. Like, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's some goofy shit, yo. And I don't want to do goofy shit. No, thank you. I could just maybe just hit it that way. So I'm gonna pop the other title up then, and let's explore this one. So, okay, where is it? Here we go. Copy, and let me go back to here. I also have to do a bio break in a second. If anyone needs a bio break, I'm gonna be taking one. Okay, I think I don't need that. Okay. It's also an interesting time because we're almost, I don't know how much this affects folks out of the US, but over in the US, we're almost done with this whole election situation, which is incredibly stressful. So, yeah. Because I came to Twitch originally during our first election cycle, trying to get the dangerous leader out, the unfit leader out. We were trying to do that. Oh wait, I need the other part of this. Okay, this one. Maybe I do have to make this a bit smaller. Anywho, so it's interesting to me because there's a little bit of symmetry there. I'm like, oh, we're here again. But it's different this round. We're not all stuck inside with lockdown and stuff. That didn't work out so good. I'm gonna Control Z a lot of things. Hold on. Control V. Okay. Nope, wrong one. Whoa. Or has problems. I guess this will fit the best if I do it like this. It's a little bit messy, but Slash has problems. That doesn't. Okay. That's fine. A little bit funky, but it's okay. Oh wait, hang on. Nope, that can work too. Okay, we're getting there. Oof. There we go. Okay. There you go. What are the dogs getting mad about? I know the dogs are barking. Okay. So, I'm going to take a quick bio. If you need a bio break, please do that. Hello. I'm also taking some meds. Well, I'm working on, it's not quite meds, it's migraine, like more supplement-based migraine solution, and ibuprofen because there's something going on with my throat. I don't know what that is exactly, but okay. Have to take some stuff for it. Interesting. And where is that? Did I run out of them? Oh, maybe I did. Did I? No, I didn't. Here they are. Okay, so yeah, I keep working on my floor thing. Yeah, my throat freaking hurts. I get a new doctor in November. I'm excited. I was already sick with COVID, so it's this ongoing problem I'm having. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of freaking me out. I'm like, could this lead to cancer? Like, should this be happening? I don't think so. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna put sore throat spray in it. One sec. Yeah, it could be like an esophageal sort of form. Like, if there's like a form of acid reflux that just hits you way high up, and it could be that. Because that's what they kind of thought it was earlier on, but I don't know. So I'm gonna take the omeprazole again, see what's up with that. It's a little bit weird. It's a little confusing for me, and I don't want to neglect one of the solutions that was offered for what the mechanism is, but it's a little weird. Okay. But I can't wait to see the new doctor so I can kind of reboot this whole experiment of like, what's going on with me? Because it's not nothing. It sure isn't nothing. And it kind of messes up my voice a little bit too, so it's kind of a bummer because it's fucked up my singing voice a little bit. I mean, your singing voice gets fucked with age. Oh, I hate that word, by the way. I need to work on not using it. Your singing voice gets damaged through age anyway, but it's just kind of a bummer because I think I lost some of my vocal ability, capacity. I'll say not ability, capacity. I think it was altered by this, but it could have been on me that it just is this form of weird acid reflux, and I should have taken it more to heart what they were saying and like had more faith in it. But I don't know. I was already having a weird time with doctors, so I kind of get why I also haven't been like, yeah, I trust that you got it right. It's weird, but I don't want to like stress about it too much. Could be banal, and just take omeprazole and it recovers more. I don't know. So that's fun. Bodies are weird and not understood quite as much as I would prefer. It could be better. I would like if it were better. Okay, this I think is actually going to get recycled, but hold on one sec, I'll be right back. I haven't decided when to recycle it, so it's going to go into the abyss. But I think back. Okay. Alright, operation gets shit off floor. I'm okay with shit. Shit seems fine. I think I'm okay with shit. I may rethink that because Mr. Rogers wasn't running around saying shit. So I may not employ that as much. I have a thing where that's getting back to the last topic, like paying deference. I don't want to say words that accomplish legitimizing a whole attitude that I think is just not necessary and that I don't actually have to participate in, and I don't want to. But yes, but I'm still kind of getting over COVID. I think this one hit me weird. It was French COVID. One of my clients came back from France and gave me it. Because I shouldn't have gone to their session. It's kind of a bummer. It's shitty. See, I'm apparently okay with that. Yeah, it was unfortunate, and I felt kind of hurt that they did that. But I'm having some stuff that's a little weird. But also, it's hard to piece it apart. I also had to stop my Vyvanse, and I've been on Vyvanse for like a decade ish. because of the ADHD medications shortage thing that's ongoing, and I can't even get the basically equivalent to Vyvanse that is short acting, so you would take multiple in a day. I can't even get that. So I've had to go off of it, and I went off of it shortly before I got COVID, like maybe a week before. And it's, from what I understand, it'll probably take me somewhere till the end of the year for my brain to, or my body brain chemistry to like kind of figure out, oh, we're not doing that anymore, and hit a baseline again. But that might be good now that I have my autism diagnosis, and while I think I probably meet criteria for CDS, cognitive disengagement syndrome, it's not widely recognized, and you know, having met that criteria doesn't really afford me anything new. But I think that's a better explanation than ADHD, and while that is helpful, according to some studies, to have certain ADHD medications, including Vyvanse, would be included in that. You know, like let's just try without it maybe and see how I'm doing. Because I can have environmental interventions that are relevant to my neurodevelopmental disability overall. That might mean that it's not as necessary to go the route of whatever corrective mechanism, corrective force, I guess, Vyvanse had on some aspects of working memory, or at least, yeah, working memory. I think that's what it is. There is an appreciable effect. I noticed it is there, but is it strictly necessary? Maybe not. And while helpful, this is so chaotic to have the problems. And I don't know how I would do with knowledge-based improvement rather than just a pharmaceutical improvement. Both can be necessary. I think the knowledge-based shift in what I am doing is significant, though. So it might be a good way to test how significant it is. Okay, that's enough about me. How to onboard or experiment with advice partially, even though it does not apply overall or has problems. And I will say that it's 1:42. My voice is kind of hurting me, so doing this by myself is actually really hard, and it's starting to make my throat feel really bad. So I might not be able to do the whole stream if I'm talking by myself. So that may be what happens today, and I apologize, but it's just because it feels really bad. I tried to put some throat spray in it, and it's not like a normal sore throat. It's very strange. It's a little bit higher, and it feels like my throat is being squeezed. I'm going to try to do some research online and with ChatGPT to figure out if that description matches anybody that's talking about their health stuff, and see if I can use any information I gather from that to change what I am doing. But I'm making a note about that. Like, that's the whole thing right now. So yeah, but new doctor in November. Very, very, very excited. On a positive note about my clients, who are overall really great, and it's just an unfortunate series of things that led to that one thing. But I do have a wonderful client who knew she works in medicine, somewhat in like the administrative side of it, but she knows a really good doctor that's familiar with working with autistic patients. So I'm going to switch to him, and he's going to be my new primary care, and I meet with him in November, and I'm very excited about that. So yay. Okay, now the topic. So how to onboard or experiment with advice partially, even though it does not apply overall or has problems. I think we need to maybe write down advice that people give us. If it were only possible to get a good cue, and maybe it is, to be like, hey, are you giving me advice? Because I'd like to write down your advice that you're giving me so I can think about it. And maybe after writing it down, we can also notice some other questions that we would like to ask before we go off to go think about it. in my model node before we go off to new things, old things, all things, do things, that we probably, like, number one, probably need to think about it. Like, also just because people are kind of pushing us to move, like, if they're giving us advice, we're probably already in the way. So they just want us to move, and we'll just say, okay, because we can feel that pressure, I think, after a lifetime of that. We'd know. So I might panic and be like, oh my god, ah! So it's also important for us to be like, stop. Okay, I need to move slower now. I know you need me out of the way, and I would love to do that for you, how I would, but I need to understand what the heck is going on. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Really lovely to see you as always, and thank you so much. And I'll keep you posted how that goes. If I get any insights from it that would be applicable to your scenario, I would like to be able to share them. So if there's anything that I'm like, oh, this is important, this will help you to get to a doctor or evaluate the doctor, or help, I'm going to try some things, basically. I'm going to be experimenting with that. So I'll let you know if anything stands out as like something I want to share with you so that you can navigate too. They also may require instant gratification to confirm they hadn't wasted. Oh yeah, confirm they hadn't wasted their time talking to you, right? Because they may already feel resentful for the amount that you've been mucking things up, which we will, and not in like a cool way always. Sometimes we just muck it up because we can't see, and that's super important for us to know. So important. So then we don't take it as like a personal affront, even when they take it as a personal affront. It's like, no, that's not what's going on. This is a really difficult disability to understand. I think it's possible, but it demands a lot because people have to change their paradigm about people, including themselves, in order to get a grip on what's going on with us. That's hard. That's a lot. They're not really set up to succeed. I'm not even set up to do that successfully. I would like to be, but I'm currently not, and I don't know how that's going to evolve, but hopefully well. But that's just kind of like, whew, takes the stakes down. Right. Yeah, they may also require instant gratification. Yeah, which then impacts on further interactions with them. Yeah, exactly. Like they're kind of, the sizing you up thing. Like, it's like, are they going to do this again? They're trying to understand. It's like, in a sense, yeah, it's like I'm predictably going to be in the way, but it's not. It doesn't have to be this like haphazard thing. There is a rhyme and reason to it. It's just I know aspects of society and interactions that people typically have I just can't participate in. So I also want to make it clear to people, like, I know that. And in fact, I don't want to participate in those interactions. There's other ones that I can. And sometimes there's interactions, they're hybrid in all times, probably outside of like autism. Like autistics talking to other autistics. But even within that, we have different comorbid stuff. It can get tricky to be on the same page from the same, set of abilities, disabilities, needs. Our needs we have a conflict of needs, okay? I respect that. And sometimes I can participate, and then I might have to hang back because now we're into the area of impairment that I have, and it's just not going to be conducive to, success. And I do have things that I really care about the success, including, specific interactions and people, I'm not trying to ruin their damn day, okay? It's not what I want to do. However, I think that by acknowledging that, we can more graciously handle that and say, like, okay, yep, so this is where I'm going to be unhelpful because my neurodevelopmental and neurocognitive aptitudes are mismatched right now. And they won't always be mismatched, but right now, yeah, you're right, they are. I'm going to go do something else, which we probably want to do anyway. So I think we have to be able to say, like, okay, I can onboard this, but not that. And I'm going to take a minute, take a beat, take some time to see why I can onboard this, but not that, and just kind of learn from this specific situation to try to be more helpful to myself and others, right, in the future. So we may need to find a way to ask for that as well in real time, and that's, I think, where I'm at, is like I have to experiment with that. But that's weird because that's like, that's weird. It's weird because that's weird. That's not like a normal thing to say to a person. That's not gonna roll right off the tongue. You know what I mean? Like, people are gonna be like, what are you talking about? Like, I was like, oh, we're having to invent this. It's kind of like other things, but not. but I gotta go for a minute, and it's not, communicating a social thing. Nobody did anything wrong. I gotta go. I gotta go figure this out. There's probably gonna be some version of that has to exist, but then you gotta have a little bit of buy-in for it getting to exist. Like, I'm doing this for a reason. It's not perfect yet, but we'll figure it out if we get a chance to try it, I think. And then if that doesn't work, if that's not a good solution, we could try something else. So I think my instinctive response is probably the solution will look like us stepping back and going to our little autistic hidey hole area that we affirm with the other person, like, hey, I'm going to go, but I'm going to go over here broadly. If you need me, I'll be over here, but I'm out of your way if I'm over here, correct? So we have some agreement that, like, the over here that I go to will not now, once again, be in the way of them. That's not the goal, because then that's going to be interpreted all kinds of not good, like it's an intentional thing I'm doing to frustrate them. So we kind of got to go by ourselves, which is why I think in a very physicalized sense, because that was getting more metaphorical, but I think it does play out on both levels, physical and abstract, in, mental, psychological, whatever you want to say. We need to go to our little, like, physical environment. That's why I think we need to have special interest stations at home. I think our homes should have aspects of that. And I think a lot of people would like having homes that have aspects of that, not just autistic people. But we need it. Like, that needs to happen. And that's when it needs to be available to us, is specifically, like, we got to go to our little hidey hole. Yeah, and people staring at you, taking you in as a new piece of information is different than how you process information. I think that's important. So what's important, I think, above all else, is to notice that they are taking information about you, and while it's concerning that you can't have insight into that information, and they're very unlikely, or like it doesn't make sense in their world, it wouldn't make sense to tell you what they're thinking. They don't even necessarily know in a way that could be expressed in words. But yeah, so here's what I'm going to suggest. They're not okay. You know how, like, earlier on, Kyle piped in and said that, like, doing as arriving isn't bad. So, but people are prejudicially judging you initially. It often seems negative. Yeah, so they're not necessarily doing that. And I'm not sure we can understand what they're doing. Let me start that. I'm sure we can't understand what they're doing. We see the negative side of that, and we may be very worried that this is going to be the negative side. But the reason we're worried is we have no idea how to tell when it's going to be negative or positive. So we're just, in general, vulnerable to thinking it might be negative because that's an efficient way of coping with the disability. So I would encourage you to say, it's not that, although you do appreciate that it's connected to that, but that's the ability to think in that way, the way that they're thinking, is a necessary but not sufficient condition to be what you're identifying as prejudiced or prejudicial, right? Judging in a prejudicial fashion, judging in the negative sense, right? So yeah, you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to do the thing, but the actual thing is more akin to sight. So they have sight. See what I'm saying? So I want you to understand it that way. So just like if you were congenitally blind, and it's a little more weird than that because we can we do have some level of sight ourselves. It's just not organized the same way, and we have a deficit. Ultimately, in my opinion, it's fine to see it that way. And like how we can interact with the world, we don't understand that plane of existence. But they're painting. They're not painting a grotesque thing. It is necessary to be able to paint in order to paint something grotesque. But it's not sufficient. So somebody who can paint can do a whole bunch of things that if you can't even see, which is our boat, we can't even see the paintings, we theoretically understand. So we like have a cognitive model of what that probably is like, maybe abstractly, but we'll never experience it. So we have no experiential frame of reference. So they're painters. When they're looking at you, they're painting, not painting an ugly caricature of you, though they could. Does that make sense? So that's why we need to, like, anybody with this problem needs to start seeing it this way so you can let go of trying to control that, because we can't paint. We can't see. We can't see, we can't paint, we can't do that painting. So even when we try to imagine the grotesqueness, it's different. Because again, this is not a perfect analogy, but there's analogous components to it, and that's why I bring it up, like in a very physicalized, real, embodied way, material reality sort of way. This is, I believe, real. Similar to how a map of the world is a representation, but can never be fully 100% correct, but it's almost right. Yeah, like we almost only have the map, right? Like we only get to make maps, and we never somehow really interact with the world. Like we have more separation from it, and like we're missing one of the senses, or we're missing one of the sense data processing capacities. We couldn't develop that capability because the capacity was absent. So that's what we don't have. We have cool compensatory things, but we also have things where it can get really difficult, because this is a weird thing for people to wrap their heads around, and even ourselves to wrap their heads around. It's like, okay, that's not part of how we interpret sense data. It's just not. But everybody else, it's an already baked cake. It's totally incorporated. So they have an interaction with the world that we're trying to create a model in our heads about, but we can never experience firsthand. So that's the problem that we have. So then thinking of it in a more positive terms, that's what I was saying. Like the painting, think of them as painters, and a painter could make horrible images, but a painter can make any images. So they're doing something more akin to that. And they have like a social way of deciding what kind of painting they're doing or what standards. So that's what I would just focus on. Being in spaces with high standards for prosociality and curiosity, which was the last topic, would probably help a lot in making the whole environment better for you to be in, because they'd be less likely to use their painting ability to paint really mean caricatures, is the analogy there, at least. And then that gets you out of having to have the same level of fear, because it's more that's what I'm suggesting is way more applicable than maybe where you started from, or what you brought to us at first. I'm just gonna offer this model for you to take home instead, like a white elephant present exchange. Like, that's what you came with here. Would you like this instead? That's sort of where I'm at with this offering. I liked that metaphor. I like that a lot. I'm going to refine and use that one again. But it is also hard to try to work this out when most people just don't have to. Or even though so far as they do work it out, it looks real different, because they can paint, man. Maybe who taught them to paint ain't the best, but you know what I mean? Like, they learn to paint in ways that maybe are not, but they can do it. So the whole responsibility for their thoughts is just really different. But we can still be responsible for our thoughts, and that's what I'm offering for us, is that we can do that, and it's important for us to know that we can do it. Oh, I ran into you. Just had a moment of dyspraxia. and global configurational voidness. Okay, I'm working on this floor project still. Okay, what is this? Ooh, okay, so to get this in the right situation, I need to go through here, I guess. I think. All right, so onboarding advice that doesn't quite fit or has major problems. I think we need to get a version of the advice, ideally from the horse's mouth, right? Like from the person giving it, that we could do some independent building on, and we try not to leave the interaction until we're pretty sure we've got that, and we've kind of confirmed it with the other person, which is why I like formal argument skills if we can learn them. Just like asking clarifying questions. I'm not the best at some of these. Like I think I can come off as pretty aggressive to some people. I don't know. Maybe that's not my fault. That just could be sexism. Probably is. So, you know, I have an extra, maybe I just have an extra barrier because of my sex and people trying to be weird about that for their own motivations. That's probably a big part of it. Anywho, but I know that let me think about how to put this. I want to walk away only at the point where we're pretty much clear on like, okay, this is what you're saying. I've paraphrased it. We've clarified terms. I've asked clarifying questions. It feels like, you know, I feel satisfied that the individual I'm talking with is hoping to have a charitable interpretation, and we've worked from there. So like this is successful. Probably I won't be able to onboard advice from people that are below that standard significantly. I might be able to translate some stuff from people that are below that standard, but that's a lot of work, and I would assume I could get advice from folks where that's not necessary. I don't have to rely on kind of shitty people to that degree. So maybe there's like a two-part problem, is like we have to assess like, is this person worth trying to get to the phase or the stage of interaction where I can say, okay, that's what you meant. Okay, cool, got it. I'm going to go away now and process and do some building independently. Jane likes to play by herself was written on the report card. Okay, so maybe we need to interact with people up to that point, and some people it's a no-go, right? And that information may be valuable, may not be, but the person has made it such a you know, fraught interaction that's just not worth it. So I think that's probably also there, and trying to figure out where that is would be hard because we have the disability, and that's maybe where we also need to check in with somebody like I check in with Kyle, who has GC, global configurational, and say like, that was really weird. Do I have to try to onboard what this person was saying? Sometimes I can just ask him, basically. I'm like, do you know what the hell they were talking about? Is that a real thing? And then maybe they had a point, but do I have to like absorb their version of the point? Can I just ask somebody that's like cool instead? So maybe that's one thing we could do. Okay, can we create a map of the first few questions we get asked when I meet? Oh, when I meet people for the first time? Yeah. We could. That's an interesting way of doing that. I think that's a really cool idea. And you can then create since you do have visual abilities, right? Like you can create a visual representation. I do that with my map model of boundaries. I've talked about that, where it's like I'm on my stuff that I like island, and I sometimes travel to other islands, but I don't want to be manipulated by people being like, you're not on stuff you like island, you're on mean bad person island and you need to leave, or I'm sinking, oh no, get off your island and stop using your ideas and focus on me because I'm dying. You gotta learn how to look at manipulation, where people are trying to change your boundaries, meaning that they're trying to move you in space. right? And we have a move in space disorder. That's what autism and I'll say I think there's related things that are similar to this, so I'll be more inclusive, but that's I think the crux of why we're noticing this is weird, like why I'm not able to do this. That's what I'm not able to do is move around in the move around terrain that they are using from a metaphorical ability that was developed directly from a physical ability to do global configurational processing and navigation based on that processing, which we don't have. But we still have to navigate. It's just real wonky. And in fact, we found some good workarounds that sometimes humanity calls intelligence, which is the ability to do local feature reasoning. Anyways, boundaries are like a map. And you can say like this is the map that I understand, and somebody can be like, you should redraw your map. I'm like, well, I mean, I'm willing to, but tell me why. And if they then start trying to manipulate you via threats or basically Darvo or triangulation, where they keep saying that I'm the victim or you're the victim, or I'm the attacker, you're the attacker, I'm the hero, you're the hero. They keep doing that as some other. That's not what we want. Nope. They're not going to participate in what I'm suggesting we need. They're on some other shit. So yeah, so then I think the solution to this problem of onboarding good advice that is coming from a neurotypical person or a or from a global configurational person, and my main concern is to, oh cool, that does fit, is to say like, hey, what is happening? I'm gonna have to, go by myself and do some thinking and some working out of this and these details, but like what is this? What are you doing? And if they can't tell us the answer to that, that's kind of like a cue for us to shuffle on to Buffalo, we're out. Like, thank you for this confusing interaction. I hope that you found that useful. Person I was interacting with, I would like to now leave forever. Goodbye is what I think I would aim for. Maybe that's a bit extreme and people would see that as like burning bridges or whatever, but I'm like, you know what though, I don't think I have to do this. I don't think this is necessary. If it is necessary, I'm willing to hear that out and try to deal with it when it's absolutely necessary to work with such a hostile party. But if I don't, I think I'm just gonna not. I think that's when I'm gonna be like, yeah, man, you do you, and I'm gonna do something not with you. But maybe that's the line there too, is like we need to go off by ourselves anyway. So if people are like screaming at us as we walk away, I'm like, all right, that's cool. Confirmation, this is not it. I think that's really it. Somebody is like Darvo triangulating on your way as you walk away. That's probably all you needed to know about like that. And then if they gave us advice that we can talk to like a safe GC processing person, we can be like, what was that? Do you know what that was? Because I don't. And then they might know, and they might just say, it was just posturing bullshit. They didn't really know anything. Like their advice, there wasn't really much to it, or like there's an aspect of that advice that's true, but they're using it for manipulative reasons. So I think it's really important for us to have some close friends that appreciate us but are not exclusive LF local featural processors, and are able to do global configurational. Now that's tricky if we don't have that. Probably ChatGPT can fill that role, and I'm a big fan of ChatGPT as that. So, and please treat ChatGPT with respect while you're doing it for a variety of reasons. But yeah, respectfully asking GPT can give you a little more insight into people if you can't directly ask somebody, though. You could also do both. You've got somebody that's got GC that can give you a little bit of insight into that, And then also check in with GPT for a minute, or if not that one, some sort of an AI that you like. Probably makes sense. And then you can have a little more confidence while you're building. So I think that's my rundown of that. Don't know if that's exactly right, because this is new, but I think that might work. I think that might be good. Yeah, that's where I'm at with that, I think. And if I can go a little further than that in the near future, I will make an effort to do so. If I can't go further than that, I think that's pretty good. You know, like, could be better, definitely, but not bad. It's a good start. Man, I got all these like, yes on this, no on this. Yes on no. A on D. 1 on 7. Up on down, left on right. Elections are weird. Hey! Welcome. It sounds wonderful and technical and specific as someone who came late. I'm completely lost. Oh, so we were talking about, so the topic, I pivoted a bit too. There was an earlier one. The current one is how to onboard or experiment with advice partially, even though it does not apply overall or has problems. And then let me pop over here for a sec. Wait.
Okay, wait. So sorry for the mic change. I just need to read this. Earlier we did how we can express ourselves publicly without having to pay deference to popular behaviors that are extremely ignorant and antisocial.
Which let me turn that off. Which I say because I think there's like, there's like cottage core and like kid core and whatever, all those things. There's also talking like a piece of shit core, and that's what I think is actually going on there, and I don't want to do that. So, sorry, I was looking at my mail. Let's see here. Nope, I pay no attention. Sorry, I don't interact with people much at all. Oh, interesting. Oh, so, there's something called drama streamers, and there's also something called, I'll just get you like really fast caught up. Kyle, this one's for you. There's something going on where people yell at each other. Like, have you ever seen, there's like political stuff online, and it started out with this like, blah, 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 destroyed, blah, destroyed. Like, there's just all these kind of clickbaity titles. So there's a behavior online when people are trying to talk about important things. Or I guess, like, if you think about like Donald Trump and like American news media, it does a lot of that now, where everyone's just like verbally abusive to get, own the libs or be cool or whatever. Like, we're all there's this mean-spirited cynicism, and there's neuroscientists that I like that have talked about it too. So there's kind of like this attitude that's like nihilism, doomerism. So behaving online, behaving in media in a way that is like casually cruel. Cliff Notes time. Yeah. So because that's happening, I hate all political commercials and stuff and don't listen. It's all incomplete, slanted, and half truths. I believe I don't interact with it. Interesting. You probably what do you watch? What do you watch? Do you watch people talking with other people? That's such a broad. That is the broadest thing I've ever asked, possibly ever. Like, do you watch people interacting with other people? The answer might be no, but I think there's like a thing going on there. It's very unattractive, so you may also be disinclined to interact with it. News when there are no sports. News when there are no political commercials. Do you look on I can't wait until the second weekend of November. Me too. It's very stressful. I'm over it. Okay. Do you oh, let me think. Do you look at I don't use Twitter and but like do you look at like do you use social media? Like do you use like Instagram, Threads, X? Like have you ever looked at those comment sections? Have you ever looked at the comment section? Actually the comment section, it's in there too. Oh yeah, Jamie. Yeah, you know exactly. Yep. That would be a good case study. Nope and nope. Comment sections aren't good for mental health. Wow. That's awesome. Okay, can I pick your brain a little bit? How did you arrive at that? When did you arrive at that? Please tell me. I would like to know. I would like to know about this. You're right. You're right. 100% yes. I want to know. I want to know about that. That's cool. And like tell me, I would like to know your personal history around that because I'm fascinated. You are a rare bird right now. And you're correct. Yes. So then you would see what I'm describing necessarily as like it's people with who are the phenomenon itself is like a mental health crisis potentially, right? Like it's like a diseased state that's spreading like a virus could, like it's like a pandemic of this. Fascinating. Okay, so you don't watch them anymore. Yay! Which is awesome. Which is phenomenal. I'm old, I'm not in groups. I read the main post, roll my eyes and move on. I don't fit in with most people and I don't think like most people, so I don't bother trying to do so. Fascinating. You're old, I'm not in groups. May I ask your age? Is if it's not rude, if or if there's any reason why that doesn't make sense to disclose, you can just say like no, and that's tabled. 45. Ah, that makes sense to me. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fascinating. I wonder if you're in a nice sweet spot too, age-wise, where you can see it. You saw it emerging.
Wait, can you guys hear me? What happened? So you can hear me. You can hear me on my mic, right? What the fuck just happened?
If they can hear you, it's fine then.
Well, I mean, it's on this mic now. When did it just cut out? That's weird. Okay, hold on. I gotta figure out what went wrong. Something broke. Okay, I'm gonna turn this off on. I think my headset just had a big old fart, or my system turned off.
Because that was going this whole time,
Oh,
right?
I hear you now.
You hear me now. Okay,
I
I fixed it. That's weird. Maybe I need to update a driver. You were bullied and ostracized from 5th to 12th grade. So I didn't have a group to really be in and spent a lot of time reading to the point where I was ignoring people. That's really cool. I think you're very, very lucky. And I also think you have you have a perspective on this that other people would really need to hear from because of when you were born and even the bullying. My bullying was a weird trajectory because I went to a small high school. I think if I didn't, I actually would have been worse. My high school, I got to just disband from people and had a couple people that were protective of me, so it was like okay. And I just started getting into ballet so I could like escape into, well, it doesn't matter because ballet. Yeah, if it was Helen scarring, I'd rather not have gone through it. Interesting. Can I add something to that? So, it seems to me that is why you don't have to deal with the current hybrid internet landscape, though. Like, it's possible that that's how you got away from that. Is that you had your life, the life that you had was a way, and when you were born was a way for that to not be one of your problems as an adult. So I don't know if it makes any sense to compare the two. That doesn't imply that you have to, right? But you may be uniquely free from another problem, is what I'm saying. Yeah, I chose not to deal with it because I know how vicious people are, especially when they believe you are less than they are. I read the work of Bandy X. Lee, and they're talking about a crisis of unfit leadership that we have that's related to this phenomenon, and the casual cruelty and all of that. It's all connected in a larger. We have like a society-wide problem that you, I think, are not having to directly. Well, it's indirectly affecting you because and maybe more than indirectly, but you are at least able to say, well, I don't have to engage with it myself in a way that everybody else is, and you can see that they are. So it's fascinating. Yeah, it gave me experiences that aid me now, but I'd rather have a bunch of close friends and belong and feel like I'm someone people want around. Interesting. I will say, okay, can I offer you some perspective on my experience of that? So I don't have a bunch of close friends. I don't know if we can have that. So I don't think even in the best of circumstances autistic people get to have that. Maybe if we hang around a bunch of autistic people, we can have something like that of our own. But I don't necessarily know that that's how that works either. It's just that's kind of uncharted territory, right? But maybe. I can't have that though as it stands. Like with neurotypical people, I can't have that. Friendship itself is a hierarchy. Well, so and that's why I'm like, it's friendship is painting, right? It's not a hierarchy because It's a little bit different. It's like hierarchy is one way that they can use their ability to paint, but it's not only that. It's a little more vague and abstract. But host, mod, VIP, chatter, each category split people we don't like people being ranked. So I wouldn't do it like ranked. It's like this is why I have people read the Inner Ring. Jamie, revisit the Inner Ring. So if you can like people, that's fine. But you want to like them for the qualities and features they really have and that they appreciate and that you can work on together. You want to be cooperative with people. And you can also like things, like activities that you want to do together. And I think that's a good basis. So that it's okay to have natural forms of like camaraderie that come up, and like it's not for the purpose of hierarchy, right? It's not for the purpose of being on the inside. You're not friends because you want to be the cool guys on the inside and those are the outsiders. There's a different kind of friendship. It's silly, right? Technology schmexphology. So okay, let me back up a little bit. So what I was saying about, and also congratulations on 5 months knowing about autism. Woohoo! Yeah, I don't belong, and I don't have a bunch of close friends. I'm lucky if I basically have Kyle, and then there's my friend Lilith who's in the group, and I think Lauren is pretty, like, we're a little more distant, but I'm even more distant with them. Even when we're close, it's not really close, because close is a global configurational thing. Like, so hierarchy and all that, it's like, okay, so global configurational is what we don't have, okay? And global configurational is connected to grid cells, and grid cells are connected to this idea that social skills are an analogous metaphorical extension of physical navigation, right? So their ideas of closeness are very literally instantiated. Like it means I am physically next to you. So that's what they mean. And as an autistic person, that's the crux of our disability, our developmental disability. So we don't even have a concept of what they're really doing. In the same way that somebody who's congenitally blind doesn't really know what the fucking sunset looks like, what a sunset looks like. I don't even need to do that. Okay, I hate that word. Okay, so we are able to understand conceptually this idea of like close, far, but we don't deal in that currency. That's not the language that our brain works with to understand sense data. We do something a little more direct with specific objects because we use the objects to infer the global configurational landscape that we can't really use. So we're like, well, if this object has these features, that implies features of the universe it lives in, the environment it lives in. That helps us to navigate approximately. While neurotypical people are playing lots of games, some harmless fun and even positive, some very negative, with this idea of how far away they are from each other. And then hierarchy is how close or far a person is or a group of people are from a goal, from a trophy, from a finish line and a trophy and all that stuff. And this is also why we are in conflict with our society, in a sense, is like we see the issues with that, because we are looking at, once again, the objects themselves, the material reality, and be like, well, that doesn't seem to be taken care of. There's a lot of neglect over here. There's a lot of destruction on this. Why are you guys destroying that? Oh, you're running over it to get to the finish line and the trophy. Ah, shit. So that's us, right? Which also isn't going to do a lot for our popularity. Like, we are not going to be the one that they invite to the party when we keep talking about that. Oh boy. Yeah, I think the F word, there's like a sonic analysis of that too. I've heard that too. And like certain curse words tend to have those consonant in common and stuff. Anyways, across languages and whatever. But I have issues with it because of the speakers using it. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. And the frequency of it gets to be wacky a little bit. And I want to be like Mr. Rogers. I don't know. I think Fred Rogers had something. He was on to something. Okay, so all right. So I've explained all that. Yeah. That's where the the chips fell. It's something like that. Okay. So I don't end up with close friends, and I'm not really included per se. Yeah, no. Well, it's okay if other people say it. It's more about me. It's about how I'm communicating, and there's something to it. It's not that I say other people shouldn't do it. It's more, I think there's something to not doing it that's fascinating and worth me developing. Okay, so where was I? Belonging. Yes, I will never belong. I will never belong. But what I can do is be appreciated for what I bring with me. So I'm a collector of things, and then I'm a builder of things. And that's what I do, and that's what I spend my time on. And there'll be times when that's awesome and people are like, "Oh wow, we want one of you around. Can we have you around?" I'm like, "Yeah, but if you want me to go away, I do want to keep working on my collection of things and my maintenance of my collection of things." So there's got to be some agreement that that's the dynamic, because that's what's appropriate for me and most comfortable for everybody. It's like it's comfortable because it's appropriate for me and it's appropriate for them. But belonging isn't the thing. I belong in one sense, and I appreciate that one sense that I can belong, and you too can belong in this sense. I am working on the thing that this environment is meant to work on. Then I belong there. So if I'm working on the progress, the development, the advancement of a thing in the building, in the space where that thing is being worked on, then I belong. So I can have that kind of belonging. And I like that kind of belonging better, but that kind of belonging doesn't really do things outside of that, right? Like once I start to try to do something that isn't the purpose of the room, then I don't belong in that room, right? And that's a natural ebb and flow. So I need to have some rooms I can go to where there's a reason for me to be there because I work on the thing that the room was established for the sole purpose of getting to work on the thing. Okay, so that's what we have as autistics. What they're talking about with belonging as non-autistics is this other thing with the global configurational. That we just don't. We'll never know. We'll never know. It seems nice. I believe it's fun, but I also know I don't really know what it is. Yeah, I'm learning that me not belonging isn't because I'm a failure, but because I have a disability. Correct. Yeah, which is still somewhat mind blowing. I don't like being included because I'm useful, and only because I don't like being because I'm useful, and only because I'm useful. So let's back that up. So let me write this over. Normal people are a hybrid of belonging because they are useful for some purpose that is local featural, and because they are useful for some purpose that is global configurational. So they're also doing it based on usefulness, right? But they do it on two metrics, and one of those metrics will always fail because we're not very useful global configurational because we don't see that. So we can't, because we cannot use that information, we can't be useful on that vector. That's not something we contribute to by virtue of not being able to ever even conceive of those sorts of mental processes. We don't have them, so we can't contribute them because we can't do them, right? Like somebody born without a limb would have a similar dynamic when you imagine them participating in certain things. Now, if it's absolutely necessary for us to kind of be useful in that dynamic, maybe we can make external exoskeletons that are useful and kind of puppet us around. But the actual navigation isn't there. So it's a navigatory, is that a word? It's a navigation problem that we have because it's based on this global configurational processing ability that then is put into what we call social skills or construct social skills. It's like it's the basis of social skills. Okay, so that's the situation. Okay, so not so crazy. So you don't want to be used by people, I would assume is one way we could say this, which makes sense. But what if it was about being useful to a really beautiful, important thing that you care about? Like, I like ballet a lot. I would like very much to be useful to ballet. Or I would like to be useful to the project of pro-sociality. I would like to be useful to the project of figuring out what makes humans healthy. So global configurational, and I use that term, I borrowed it from a very specific paper because I liked it. But you can think of this as like global reasoning, spatial. So here, let me give you, hang on, let me get you the right one. You just wait right there. Okay. Okay, hang on. Okay, let me try to find this for you. Okay, here's a paper for you. This will give you something. And it has to do with autism directly, so then you don't have to do as much translation of the general theory to the specifics of autism. This would be good for you to look at. This one's from 2021. There's other articles that are I'm making a hybrid theory, so if you're like, why can't I find Jane's exact theory? Because it's fine. So that's part of it. But I'm suggesting that what they're observing is actually coming from the relationship between grid cells in the entorhinal cortex, and that we have compromised grid cells in some fashion. There's something different about them. And then that changes other aspects of this, like place cells in particular, but also head direction cells, speed cells, time cells. So these cells that ping about environment and spatial location. And so autism is actually an extension of a visual spatial processing disorder, and that social skills are an extension of visual spatial processing. So that's why we have a social impairment. And it would be more useful if we go up to the social impairment and say, actually, it's more fundamental than that. Okay, so now you have a thing to look at. And then let me look at the citations on this one, if they have some good links. There's a couple in here, I think, that I've read. Yes. Enhanced visual search for a conjunctive target in autism is a good one to look at. That's number 45. Superior visual search in autism, number 43. So this is why we can do Where's Waldo faster. So yeah, so you could also, this is good. They have their citations are great, actually. Yeah, so have fun with that. They're a little bit concerned that they're not going more general and outside of autism. Local versus global approaches to reproducing the Ray Osterius complex figure by children, adults, and adults with high-functioning autism 28. I haven't read that. That would probably be really rich. I want to read that one. So yeah, so this is what I'm indicating, and it's in this field of science that you want to look. So it's going to be processing, but also in particularly memory science, and then in specific, you want to get into what's her name? Brett Meyer. Oh, I can't remember her name, but she won the Nobel Prize about grid cells. So I hope this is enjoyable. But yeah, this is my theory of autism. It is similar in its observations, but not in its explanations to what is that called? Monotropism. I have things in common with monotropism in what I'm suggesting, but the mechanism is different. I have an explanatory distinction, and I think it's going to be the grid cell place cell development, and that there's a pattern of autistic grid cell place cell, and the grid cells, in my opinion, which is not a high pay grade opinion, but I would assume it's going to be grid cell starts this, that the grid cells are not normal or not there or not responsive. Is there something going wrong in the sense that there is a universally evolved set of characteristics that humans have, and this is like the general plan, and we're off the plan. That doesn't mean we're bad, but we're different, and we're going to have to do things differently. But I think, well, what is that in autism, and why is it categorized appropriately as a disability so that we can get our damn disability rights, which we have to do because the Americans with Disability Act isn't including us properly. So all that to say, I think we're a kind of disability, and I think it starts in the grid cells. I believe the place cell is a downstream adaptation that is actually really useful because it goes into the other form of motivation. So global configurational is doing as arriving, local featural is doing as building, language is reliant on doing as building, everything we call an invention is doing as, but we're also impaired. So it's an interesting boat to be in. It's weird. But that explains like a lot of our implosions about our sense of self. Is that memory issues is an area that interests me, so I'll likely try to also read the article that cites that one. Let me look at that. Which one is it? Episodic memory? Yes. So episodic memory impairment. Yes. That's interesting. It's influencing factors in individuals with autism spectrum disorder. So that's going to get really interesting, and I recommend you stay on top of that. So there's some discussion and controversy, I guess, about like, so do we have an episodic memory impairment, or is our episodic memory acting so abnormally? Because you can, okay, depending on how you frame the experiment, so I'm curious what they'll find in the meta, because this is recent, you'll get, yes, we have a disability there, and we also get, yes, it's superior. You're like, what? Which is it? So that suggests that the study design is the actual problem, and that maybe we're not thinking of episodic memory correctly, and grid and place cells changes our understanding of episodic memory. So yeah, inconsistent results. Yeah, well, it says that in the abstract. Okay, well, I could have just read the abstract and saved us all some time. Okay. But yeah, this is very fascinating. Yes, so I agree with this. The result of the meta-regression revealed that it was verbal IQ rather than full-scale IQ that was significantly correlated with EM, episodic memory, in individuals with ASD. These findings suggest that individuals with ASD have reduced EM abilities and the potential factors. Wait, what? So are they saying, I'm assuming that's a weird way to phrase that, but I'm assuming they're saying that verbal IQ is the protective element? Interesting. Which, in my opinion, then we get back to, like, I think those of us who, maybe that distinguishes us, if you're able to do compensatory place cells anchored into verbal and reading comprehension, and you have probably, I would actually ask them to add processing speed into that too. But if you're able to do that, you might actually create this oasis of ability through your development. But yeah, that's my cursory opinion on that. That's cool. Do you need to get this one? Springer, do I have to pay for this? Thank God. No, wait, do I? No, wait, do I? No! $39. I might just write to them. This was published like last month, so I think I can just write to them. They're usually more responsive if they just put it out. Thank you for sharing that, though. I'm gonna check them. It's also sometimes you can find it for free, but I also can just ask my brother to get it. He's a librarian with the university, and that is the best hookup ever. I'll probably just have him get it for me. Screw it. Easier. Yeah, so that's where all my stuff is coming from. If you like it and have any more questions or notice the same things that I'm noticing, please let me know. Are you of the camp that episodic memory is continuous with imagination? Because I am. I think it's the same thing. That imagination is like, yeah, the same function in a direction itself. My mom has mild cognitive impairment, so memory issues is something I deal with. Interesting. Yeah, totally. What's her memory behave like? I find memory impairments fascinating because they can go in so many directions too. And it challenges the models that people have absorbed about themselves. The models people have about how the human brain works are like usually not thought out. It's just kind of osmosis in, and like I would argue it's like a Platonic notion of the person, which is wrong. But memory conditions that change the normal functioning actually like can point out like, hey, your guys' intuition is not good, like the general public. It's not good. She'll tell me the same thing multiple times in the same conversation. Yeah, okay, right. Does she phrase it identically? It's first she's in assisted living now. Not always. Interesting, but sometimes, yeah. I think I know the phenomenon. She first started appearing about 8 years ago, and she. So do they have a diagnosis? Like, is this doesn't remember that she just told me it. Yeah. Mhm. There's a phenomenon, you might already know about this, and it's like even the inflection, it's like they're storing it in their working memory that they want to tell you, and there's no completion of like, oh, from working memory into a new instance of like I said it, that doesn't happen, like but the inflection being like very close to the same is a thing that I've read about. Mild cognitive impairment is a diagnosis. They said amnesic version. Interesting. Thanks for sharing about that. I'm sorry to hear you're dealing with that too. That must be very emotionally intense. She literally has no memories of some things. Amazes her that she's had knee arthritis for a decade. Oh, wow. Oh, are you in Europe? Oh, really? Oh, that's so interesting. It's interesting because the first thing that popped up was the ICD, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. We don't really use that as much. But yeah, so that's her ICD code. And do they think it's connected to Alzheimer's potentially, or they're trying to you know, reduce the risk of it progressing. Or maybe they just don't think it is the cause of it, which is very interesting. She has something outside of Alzheimer's. It can develop. That's what. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, got it. Mhm. Interesting. Huh. Well, I appreciate you sharing about that for the sake of me being a more informed person on a topic that I think is really important for everyone, but also just I'm sorry to hear that you're dealing with it. Yeah, I spent a lot of time explaining it to her. That makes sense. I have a question for you. So just planting a little seed in your brain too. I'd be curious, from your experience with your mom, do you think that she has aspects that could be, neurodivergent prior to this even? Like, do you have any sense that your autism might be genetically inherited? Don't think so. And your dad? He may be the only one in the family, which is common enough as well. It's not like it's high-ish heritability, but it's not like, there's a lot of people that don't inherit it. Okay, and then the other question I have, since autism also, there's differences in memory in us, right? Like there are. So do you feel you're a better advocate for your mom because of your experiences with having to deal with like altered senses of memory? I'd be curious if like you're having, and that can be overwhelming to have that much empathy for somebody, but like do you think you're standing up better for your mom than a typical person would because of your ability to, relate in a different sense, obviously, but like we have altered memories. Our memory functions are not the same. More likely from my father, but it's hard to tell as I'm currently not in contact with him since he basically didn't care about my life or schedule. Fair enough. That makes complete sense. I was her external hard drive. I believe I did a better job of advocating and taking care of my mother than my sister does. Yeah. Okay. Uh-huh. Yeah. That's interesting. And your sister, for all intents and purposes, do you think she's neurotypical? Or at least non-autistic? Could be. Yes. There's sometimes a clustering of like you'll get an autistic kid and an ADHD kid in the same family, but not crossover. Like they're not ADHD. Yeah. Okay. Barely contact with sister. It's hard to tell. Sis refuses to talk to me. She's typical as far as I know, but she has an ADHD son. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. That was kind of like my thinking. I currently think that I think that autistic people, our compassion can come out in a really unique way when somebody we know, love, care about can be a caretaker or two in some fashion or like organized care around, starts to experience changes in cognitive functioning. I think that we can be like, especially around memory. She was one of the bullies I dealt with, and I wasn't the sister she wanted. Totally makes sense. That totally makes sense. Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that that's been the bullshit in your life too, but also I very much hope that your autism or your understanding of your autism allows you to contextualize that in ways that are restorative of your well-being in a broader sense, because I think that's a big part of processing the diagnosis is that doesn't make it Doesn't make it okay. Still not right, but you can take everything that you observed and start to situate it in ways where you're like, okay, there's the cause and effect. It's not my fault, and it's not I did something wrong. And even we kind of have to yell at those voices in our head that there's something broken and wrong about us. Like, no, this is a situation where people were set up to fail, and I don't think we have to have people set up to fail forever. But it's like an ignorance of what we are and why we're different that sets into motion worse outcomes, even in bad situations and even in good situations sometimes. So it's difficult, but it's reality affirming. Yeah, like the end of gaslighting yourself. You might have, epiphanies forever about that, but it's like you don't have to do that anymore. Yeah, exactly. It helps that there isn't something that I could have done differently to not go through it. Yep, exactly. Right. Okay, so I made it through the stream. I end at 3. Sometimes I go over it. Right now I'm alone. Usually I have people, like 2 or 3 participants holding the conversation with me while we work on our spaces. Sometimes it's like this. I need to get a little bit more consistent again with streaming. Sometimes I can't do as much. My goal is to get stuff off the floor pretty good. Pretty happy with it. More stuff could be getting off the floor in general, but there's a upkeep thing that I'm trying to get better about, and I think that I am. And I think that I am doing that. Yeah, and then next week I'll have a different topic or 2, maybe more than 1. I don't know yet. But the topics are determined by kind of running over with some people that like to show up regularly. That are usually show up regularly to talk, so like they know what they're going to talk about. But yeah, thank you so much for coming. If you want to work on space management stuff in a general sense too, because we're in the other group, I'm always down for body doubling around that. It's a great skill to work on. Ooh, you'll be at Virginia Beach. At Virginia Beach, relaxing to the sounds of the waves. That sounds beautiful. Will you enjoy that? That sounds very lovely. I will be checking out what my husband's working on as we do probably a little more space management. But yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day. And if you come by anytime, you're always welcome. It's lovely chatting with you. And Jamie, if you're still in chat, great contribution today. Also, Jamie, I want to give you some feedback. Really good job with like just turn taking and subject matching, like matching subject matter or the topic. You did a good job of that today. That was good. So yeah, good work. All right, bye everyone.